Do you feel like you're being called to do more with your life? And if so, how are you stepping up to the challenge of answering that call? My name is Olivia da Silva. I'm a coach and a writer, but I haven't always been a coach and a writer. I want to tell you about the time when I was called to do more with my life and how I'm going about answering that call. When I look back over my experience of the last 12 years or so, I recognise there's these 9 phases that I've been through at one time or another, and I don't want to make it sound misleading talking about 9 phases, because it could make it sound like a neat and linear process, and actually it's anything but that. But how I think these phases can help is that there's certain times when you need to do something, certain times when there's things you just need to know, and then there's certain times where you just need to be. And as I talk through my experience of living through these phases, you may identify with yourself at any stage of the process, but you also may recognise that there's things that you haven't done or not doing or don't really recognise along the way, and that could help you to really step up to the challenge of answering the call in your life. So let me tell you about these phases. Phase 1 is a being phase. And you'll know you're in this phase when you're experiencing a deep sense of dissatisfaction with your life. You'll have probably worked really hard to get to where you are and even achieved all the goals that you set out to achieve, but now you're looking around and thinking, is this it? Is this everything I've worked so hard to get? Because this doesn't feel like the life I want at all. When I found myself in this phase, I remember looking around the world about me and thinking everything just feels soulless and superficial, and nothing really seemed to be fulfilling me. And that sense of dissatisfaction was real. I think this is the most difficult phase to move on from, and 3 reasons for that. And the first one being that it's really easy to ignore that dissatisfaction, to feel like perhaps it's normal. You can escape into all the comforts of life, like the Netflix binges or going on holiday, or maybe going on a retreat even, getting some perspective in your life, but then coming back and the sense of dissatisfaction always seems to creep back in again and never really getting resolved. And being busy, I mean, honestly, it's just so easy to ignore that with the busy life, going from one thing to the other and never really reflecting or thinking about what's going on. So being busy is a real hindrance to moving on from this phase, being too busy. So easy to do that in this life. The second thing that keeps us stuck in this phase is really that all the resources that have got you here are not the resources you need going forward, not the resources you need to move on from this place. It's an entirely different mindset and an entirely different approach to life, really. And that's what I'm going to talk about in my channel, about changing that mindset and approaching life in a very different way. And then the third thing that keeps us stuck in this phase is just feeling that we should be more grateful for the life that we have. And of course, we should be grateful for living in the Western world and all the privileges we have, but seeing gratitude in that way can really keep us stuck in this phase, because it's like you experience a sense of dissatisfaction and maybe think, well, I should be grateful for what I've got, and then it's just really masking it. Actually, what you should be grateful for is that sense of dissatisfaction. You should be grateful for not feeling satisfied with what you've got in life, because it means you've got more to offer. It means you've got so much more to offer. So start to experience gratitude for that sense of dissatisfaction. I'll be talking quite a lot about how to be with those feelings so that we can really use them to move on. Now, the second phase is a knowing phase, and it's what I call the Gen. And the Gen, what you need to know, is that everything you need to answer the call is already within you. There's no more training and development, there's no qualifications to achieve. Really, everything that you need to answer that call is already within you. We're all born with this innate creativity and the ability to deliver a unique contribution in our lives, to the world. We all have it within us, without question. So knowing that you've already got that is part of the challenge. I'll be talking more about this in my further videos, but for now I just want to explain what these phases are, and you can see where you can connect with them. Now, phase 3 is that another knowing phase. Phase 3 is that the world really needs what it is that you have to offer. Now, if you look around the world now, you realise that we're faced with a complex set of problems. We have globalisation, the problems from globalisation, climate change, we have growing inequalities, political divides, technological disruption, all these kind of really complex challenges. And what the world needs now is it needs kind of sort of complex solutions, if you like, creative solutions. It requires us to really dig deeper and to collaborate wider with our solutions. And I believe this is the call that you're being asked to step up for now. So that's phase 3. Phase 4 is a doing phase. This is phase 4 is what I call taking the red pill, or the point of no return. So this is a doing phase. And this is where we're really making the decision to embrace a different way of life, or to go back to the old way of things, to the old way of doing things, so back to that escape. Now, I believe if you've already got this far, and if you're already experiencing this, you've probably already taken the red pill, and you can go back. Yes, you can go back, but you'll only be wasting time. So the important thing is to really make that commitment to yourself and make that decision to move forward. Now, phase 5 is called what I call entering into the unknown, or otherwise known as the separation. Now, this is where we're starting to get in touch with our creativity and what it is we have to offer. And when I talk about creativity, I'm going to talk more about this, but it just means getting in touch with this unique sense of this unique contribution that we have to offer. We all have to offer. And you could be a musician, you could be a teacher, you could be an artist, you could be working with digital technology, a database developer, a web developer. There's a whole span. It doesn't matter what you're doing, and creativity doesn't just mean the arts. I think we probably all know this now, but the definition of the word, the origins of the word create, it means to form out of nothing. So how I see that is really digging deep within us and to create, to deliver something, to create something out of whatever it is we've got to offer. So we have this unique contribution, and again, I'm going to be talking more about how to discover that within yourself. But why this is called the separation is that when we start connecting with what it is we have to offer, we put ourselves in quite a vulnerable place, and we open ourselves up to the judgment and criticism of others. And it's not a comfortable place to be. And you actually might find yourself in life having to put firmer boundaries in place with people, or maybe even having to cut some people out of your life. And it's really quite important to do this if people are going to hold you back, or you're going to feel judged or criticised by them. And it could only be temporary, it could only be so you can find the confidence you need to move forward. It could be a permanent thing, I don't know. I mean, I talk about my experience of having to do this, and and the important thing in this phase is that you can do that you need to do that without feeling selfish and without feeling guilty. So we do that with love and compassion. And the other thing you may have to let go of in this phase is status. Now, I don't know, what you might be doing in your life now. In order to really answer that call and to find out what you have to offer, you may need to leave a job. You may not. I actually ended up leaving 2 jobs and became a housekeeper. I'm going to talk about my experience of doing this, but it may or may not be required. That's all I'm saying. Now, note, when I say giving up status, I'm not saying giving up security. That's really important. I'm not saying giving up security, but if there's some status, some job title, or some accolades that you're kind of really attached to, then, perhaps this might not be for you, but you've probably got other things to offer, but probably not in this way. Status is another thing that, you may have to leave behind. That's phase 5. Now, phase 6 is called what I call developing resilience for the challenge ahead. Now, you may already feel quite challenged. You probably will already feel quite challenged because this is quite difficult, some of the stuff we're required to do if we really want to dig deep. But the challenge ahead is going to be much greater and probably more sustained. So you're going to need to develop resilience for doing that. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a set of power tools. This is not my phrase. This is a phrase I've picked up from somebody else, and I love that. We have these kind of internal power tools that are available to us all, and they're in the practices of meditation, breath work, and vision work. I'm going to be introducing you to these practices and tell you how I've managed to adopt these in my life on a consistent basis. And what's really helped me to do that is understanding the neuroscience behind these practices. So I'll be talking all about that. And this is really what we need to develop the resilience for the challenge ahead, as I say. Now, phase 7 is the real challenge. And the real challenge is letting go of outcomes and results. And this probably sounds fairly simple. In theory, it is. But it requires a real change in mindset in our Western world, and particularly if you've come from working in private industry like myself, you're very used to having measures in life and being able to set targets and achieve those targets and being able to measure them in finance, income, sales, whatever it is, but there's always something to measure. Now, what we do in this phase is we completely let go of those measures, we completely let go of expectations, we completely let go of any outcomes, and we really start to connect with what it is we have to offer. And when you're in this phase, you will be experiencing dissatisfaction, disappointment, and extreme self-doubt. And obviously that's not comfortable, but we've developed the resilience to go through this, you see. And what I want to tell you is that these things are your gifts. These are the things that are going to make you dig deeper. And while you're experiencing these, it just means that you've got deeper to dig. I really believe that, and this has been my experience as well, being on this creative process. And so I'll be talking all about that. And don't worry, there's some good stuff to come. I know this doesn't sound great, but phase 8 is what I call being creative. Now, when you start to connect with that creativity, that inner creativity that you have, and whatever it is that you have to offer, be it cooking, music, entertainment, writing, whatever it is, it could be childcare, I don't know, whatever it is that you have to offer, that unique thing that you've got, that unique set of skills and passions, and where they all meet and start to deliver those things, you experience what it's like to really live in that creativity. And there's a real sense of fulfillment that comes from within. It can be challenging to live like this as well. It can be really tiring, in fact, because it wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning with ideas. And, so it can be quite tiring to live like that, but also incredibly rewarding and incredibly fulfilling. And the other thing about being in this phase that I absolutely love is that you're not worried about time management. You're not worried about where your attention's going or having to focus your attention or being distracted, because those things are just naturally happen because you're experiencing being in your flow. So you lose track of time. Your attention's just completely absorbed in what you're doing. And it's a really, really fulfilling place to be, a really rewarding place to be. You probably will have already experienced this at some level in your life, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But, to be able to connect with that more in your life and to be able to use that to make your contribution, that, like I say, I can't tell you how rewarding that is. And then phase 9, you get to phase 9, and this is the results of living this way of life. And when we get to this phase, so in letting go of the outcomes and connecting with what it is that you have to offer, you start to deliver this to the world, however you do that. And because you've let go of the outcomes and any expectation of results, you start to do that with a real humility. And that's a really lovely place to be. And then when you do get the results of whatever it is, you'll realise that they're far, far greater than anything you could have wished for yourself. And again, this has been my experience, and it's been my experience time and time again. And I will be talking more specifically about what this has meant to me and what this has brought me to. But yeah, even at the start of the phase, when I look back, 12 years ago to when I first felt called, it would not have even been a glimmer of my imagination what I'm doing now. It really wouldn't. I would not have been able to glimmer this. And the opportunities that I feel are ahead of me now are absolutely incredible. And it's just come from really let go of outcomes and letting go of setting goals and trying to achieve targets. So I really, really want you to experience that as well. And the other thing about being in this phase, and why I say the world really, really needs what we have to deliver, is that when you're living this way of life, is that you need to become very simple. And you're not kind of the material side of things becomes less and less important. Now, of course, we want to be driving a nice car and we want to have nice clothes, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but those things are really not fulfilling you. That you do them because they're nice to have. It's just that these things really don't make you, and you really start to experience that. And that is just a really wonderful way to live. And now my husband and I live a very simple life, and we're really happy with that. So the other thing to say about all of this is that, as I said, 9 phases makes it sound like a neat and linear process, and it's not, because you could be identifying with any of those phases, and you could be in a few of them at the same time. And, you don't get to 9 and then stay in 9. That just doesn't happen. I mean, hopefully you won't go back to 1. I don't think you're going to go back to 1, but you'll probably experience more of 7. That's going to be a place you're going to start to get comfortable with being in. But, that's fine. Anyway, so if you like what I've had to say, I hope you will think about subscribing to this channel, and then you'll get notified when my next videos come in. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear about how this has connected with you, if at all. And please feel free to comment or to send me a private message.